right. So Tanyan is the father of Melissa, Matthew, and Jake. So please join me in welcoming our Chief of Police. Good to see you. Did you prefer this here?
All right, let's give this young man a big hand. She's doing a phenomenal job. And while the media gets beat up by all sides, I got to tell you that as someone that was born in a communist nation, I love the free press, and you may not be perfect, neither are we, neither are in this room, but you guys do a great job, and thank you for your work.
Thank you, I see, sir.
So it's really good to be here. There's a lot of empty seats. I don't know if that's me or it's voting day. I'll see everybody out voting. What is it? Is it me? Or is it Councilmember Knox? Which one is it? So Councilmember Knox is here, and I want to give him a big hand. He's a great partner for us. He spent about 15 years with the police department. It was one of our first gang investigators, but it's really good to see you, Councilmember. I'm just going to say a couple words, but I really want this to be about you asking me what you want me to talk about. You asking me questions, and nothing's off the table. You can be controversial. It doesn't matter. I don't run away from controversy. Like I say, I run towards it because if you ignore it, it's going to get bigger anyway. You might as well address it, and that's why I believe in transparency and engagement and those things, which is part of relational policing. But I've been here now. November 30th will be 2 years. I'm happy to say that in those 2 years, we've really re-engineered the police department. We're constantly changing the way we're doing business. It was amazing to me to get here on November 30th of 16 and find a department that didn't even bother to send detectives to attempted murder scenes, to aggravated assault scenes, and just in a patrol officer. And I remember telling my men and women that, the way that you stop homicides from happening is by solving attempted murders before they're successful to kill somebody. If somebody shoots you today, you're probably not the first person they shot, and you probably won't be the last person they shot. Especially when it's 20,000 gang members in our city, documented gang members, 18,000 violent parolees, and then, so that's 38,000, if you add those up, and we have 5,200 police officers trying to keep 640 square miles tame in a city where 20 years ago we had 300 more cops to 500,000 fewer people. But to say it's a challenging environment for our men and women, I think is an understatement. It's interesting, we've been going to all these town hall meetings with the mayor and the fire chief and the police chief talking about Proposition B and Proposition A. And you remember his little jingle, A is good, B is bad. That's not me, that's the mayor. And it was funny because the fire department chief would always say, yeah, we have 300,000 calls for service per year. My response was, we have 1.2 million a year. Okay, so if you want to talk about parity, you can already see it's a different environment. I'm all for, criminal justice reform. I'm all for really being smart on crime, which means we shouldn't be putting people in jail that we're angry at, like the people that want us to take the homeless person that maybe they're trespassing for the 50th time this year and throw away the key. That's not going to happen. What we need to do is get that person some treatment. We need to get that person some mental health. We need to get the person some addiction treatment. That's what's going to change that behavior. And are we mad at them? Yes. We need to focus on people we should be scared of. And that's the people that are shooting, that are robbing people, that are following you from the ATM and terrorizing you when they go to rob you, or home invasions or whatever else. And so we're trying to be smart on crime, not tough on crime. Tough on crime is a great slogan, but tough on crime is not a great strategy. And we're trying to be data-driven, intelligence-led, and as a result of that, our violent crime, all of our crime is down again this year, and we're really proud of that. You think about the threats. We think about Russia, we think about the Chinese government that's stealing everything they can. So if you're in business, and just be real leery when you're dealing with China, because they're stealing everything, believe me. To the extent that they came to visit some high-level Chinese national police officers, they came into my headquarters, into my building, into my office, into our suites, and my secretary caught 3 of them taking rosters with home phone numbers, cell phone numbers, emails, spouses, and sticking them under their jackets. That's a real story of the Houston Police Department. And thank God for her that she had the courage to say, give us that back, and actually got in an argument with one of them, wouldn't give it back until I get him out of my office and said, what's the commotion about? And there's one of these guys that had a roster, wouldn't give it back. So I throw that out because as business people, you need to be aware of that's going on the national level. But what's keeping me up the most is really the homegrown threat. Think about what we've had happen in our country in the last couple of weeks with, and you know, there's extremists on the left, there's extremists on the right that hate each other, yet they don't realize that they're both the same extreme, and they're both just as wrong for different reasons. Americans are pragmatic. I mean, we're a nation that for 240 years we've always looked for win-win situations, not winners and losers. That's the way we've always been as a nation. I think that because of the extremists that kind of carry the day on both sides of the aisle, it's why we're all so frustrated, I think, as Americans. But the biggest threat, from my perspective, in terms of violence really right now is that homegrown extremist. And one of the things that I'm concerned about is this administration has announced last week that they're not going to continue the efforts on combating violent extremism. And I will tell you, I don't worry about Middle Eastern extremists as much as I worry about our own extremists here on both ends of the spectrum. And right now, the extreme right is much more active and much more violent than the extreme left. And just be aware of it, because you saw a guy sending bombs, incendiary devices from Florida. We saw that a couple weeks ago. And we saw what happened in the synagogue, and we saw what happened in Sutherland Springs, and we see what's happened with our young people that are losing their minds, and you know, and then they go down here and just down the freeway here on 45, shooting up a school. It's all homegrown, so we have to be vigilant and forget the rhetoric, but pay attention to what the real threat streams are. And I will tell you that I'm proud of the fact that law enforcement, we're keeping our eye on the ball. With the visibility of the assistant chiefs, I think Councilmember Knox can tell you that probably when he was on, you would see police assistant chiefs out in the streets like you do today. You would see them leading from the front. You probably saw them leading from behind a desk. And I've always told people, you cannot change culture from behind a desk via memo. You just can't. You've got to get in the trenches. You've got to lead from the front. And if you don't believe that, just look at Harvey, where our men and women, not only did they maintain the security of this city, you didn't see widespread looting. Not only did they maintain the safety of the city, they turned into rescuers, and I'm pretty certain we rescued as many, if not more, people in the fire department, because we actually put the entire department on 24 hours. No one got to go home for 6 days. All 5,200 members of the Houston Police Department were required on that Saturday night. Remember that Saturdays when the storm was going to hit? We actually activated our Alpha Bravo tactical alert on Friday at 6 p.m. The reason we did it 24 hours before the storm's going to hit is because we wanted to create and establish an operational rhythm so we can really identify any kind of problems with our logistics, any problems with our plan, so we can adjust it within the first 24 hours before the storm hit. Then by Saturday night, I remember Mayor Turner that Saturday morning we were at the HEC Center there talking about what was coming. And the National Weather Service woman looks at us and tells us, well, we're going to get about 24 inches of rain in the next 24 hours. And I'm like, I'm not pretty new to Houston, but I know that if 3 inches of rain create havoc, and 1 inch of rain creates concern, you can imagine what 24 inches, which, by the way, that's why I bought in the Heights, right? Because I know it's called the Heights for a reason. So coming by in the Heights, we want to drive up the prices in my neighborhood so we can, the day I get run out, I can make some money on my house. But we knew it was going to be bad, and I remember the mayor kept talking about Greens Point and the previous Memorial Day weekend floods. That community up there in those apartments felt like the city failed them. But I went up to Greens Point when that storm hit heavy on that Saturday night. Started in the water up to my knees, and by the time I was done, I was up to almost my chest. We rescued, our men and women rescued, and I was there with them, rescued probably about 600-700 people. They were trying to get back to the headquarters that night. Everywhere we looked, everything was underwater. I have never seen such widespread destruction. So when I get back to the headquarters, I told my people, effective immediately, we're going to 24-hour shifts. Nobody's going home. Not one cop abandoned their post. That says a lot about the culture of this organization. I'll never forget the Cajun Navy. You guys remember the Cajun Navy? Yeah. And I got really frustrated with a sister agency. I'm not going to say what agency it is. But I don't believe in being risk averse. I believe that that when lives are on the balance, you have to be risk appropriate. And when lives are on the balance, you have to take risks. And I believe when lives are on the balance, that's when we get paid to take those risks. And I kept asking, I never heard of the Cajun Navy, right? So I start hearing about, hey, the Cajun Navy's in route. What the heck's the Cajun Navy? And so they told me, and I started getting text messages from friends from around the country. They were actually bringing boats. But we kept asking, we need staging areas. They had no idea where to go, so I kept asking for staging areas. They wouldn't do it. Another agency kept saying it's a liability issue, right? Another agency said they're not trained professionals. Another agency kept saying all this stuff. All I know is that Saturday night when I got back to headquarters, went up to the Department of Operations Center, and I said, people, effective immediately, this police department's going rogue. We don't care. Let me tell you something. When we knew that we had thousands of calls stacked up, you couldn't even get through to 911 for people that were screaming for rescue. I don't know about you. My family's stuck and the floodwater's rising. I don't care if it's a firefighter, a police officer, or a total stranger. I want help. And from my perspective, let me just tell you this. If I had a choice between being rescued by the so-called trained professional or those Cajun Navy people that live out there in the swamps that kill alligators with their hands, right? They kill alligators with their hands. I don't know about you. Those people are resilient. That's who I want to come rescue, right? I mean, they are resilient. And so we said, effective immediately, I want 8 staging areas around the city. I want 8 locations with 8 lieutenants, 8 sergeants, and let's get out the information. And as a result of that decision, and the result of telling our people that we're no longer letting anybody go home, I think we were able to save lives. I really believe that. Yes, sir.
Simple, basic question. What are the 2 or 3 things we can do at home to make us safest there?
At home?
Yeah.
Well, make sure that you marry wisely. Okay? That's what it's time to have.
If anybody knows my wife, I definitely did.
Yeah, okay, very good, very good. Because 43 homicides last year were domestic violence. And were predominantly male versus male suspects, female victims, but there are female suspects, a couple that have actually killed men. So I think that always make sure you have your own relationships and be healthy at home in your environment. I would harden my own home, especially with motion lights, making sure you cut your shrubs back. People like that privacy. You know how people put up those big shrubs all around for the privacy? Well, they don't get that. Also gives privacy to the burglars that want to hit your house, right? Or they want to lurk in all those big shrubs waiting for you to show up so they can rob you at gunpoint at your house. The other thing is I always say common sense and good judgment goes a long way. If you have a choice between going to the ATM in broad daylight or the ATM at night, plan ahead, go to the ATM in broad daylight. Don't count your money at the ATM. Have situational awareness. Have your doors locked, your windows up. Get as close to the actual ATM. That's what I do. I actually fold my mirror, get as close to the ATM on my truck as I can get so nobody fits between the ATM and my vehicle, and be looking around. So just like gassing up, I always tell my wife, I don't want to find out you're gassing up at night. Ladies, don't put your purse right on the seat. So the sliders, I just had a lady, I haven't called her back. A slider, those are the guys that slide in and grab your purse while you're gassing up. You know, leave it on your side, closest to you. And it's those little things, I think, go a long way. Yes, sir.
What's your thoughts on concealed carry?
I'm all for concealed carry, but let me just tell you, guns belong in the hands of law-abiding Americans with sound mind. And anytime we talk about anything involving gun policy, oh my God, the NRA, they sell little posters of me, right? Because I'm that Cuban guy that wants to go over here. Absolutely not. Concealed carry is, if we could use Texas as a model where you have to go through a background check, you have to take some training, and you have to actually show some proficiency when you take that training. You know, the #1 bill right now for the NRA is reciprocity, which means your permit, you can go everywhere. I'm against reciprocity. And I'll tell you why. Because not every state's like Texas. If we had a national standard for concealed handgun license carry, this chief will be the very first one that will say, we need to honor a license to carry nationwide. But the problem is, if you have a pulse rate in some states, if you're 18 or 21, it's constitutional carry. It's your constitutional rights. No, it's not your constitutional rights. The Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court, once again, has ruled that there are some limits that they can place on that. So having said that, remember, cops carry guns all the time, and they get murdered all the time. They're highly trained, they're well equipped, they're well informed, and they get murdered all the time. Having a concealed license or carry is good, but don't get a false sense of security. Because remember, action beats reaction all the time, right? It's like these guys that want to do the open carry, they want to get their pearl-handled guns, you know, and they want to walk into the bank. I don't know about you, but when there's a Trey Hoover Crip, right, or El Cholo from LA is in Houston, and they need a little spending money, and they go into the B of A or the Chase or whatever to rob the joint, and you go in there with your concealed license, and that other fool goes in there with his, you know, patent, you know, pearl handgun, 45. What do you think they're going to, who's going to attract their attention first? There's a reason cops don't open carry off duty. It's called you don't want to lose a tactical advantage, right? So it's a great program, but I think that it's a program that when people have that, that doesn't mean you're safer to go to the ATM at night in a high crime area just because you have a gun. Your gun doesn't stop bullets, okay? All right? And when some guy walks up behind you and puts, you know, just, it's a great program, but don't get a false sense of security. Don't take risks that you wouldn't take without it. Does that make sense to y'all? Oh Lord, oh, that's a great question. We should have a lot more than we have now. Let me just tell you, New York City, okay, I'm so sick of New York City and all the money they get. My very first interview with the media here, they showed me a clip of New York City bragging how they did better than us. Now like two weeks on the job, where their crime is way down and ours wasn't way down. It is now. You have a good coach here. Bragging myself. I'll take credit. Yeah, so they said, what happened to that? What it tells me is the federal government needs to stop giving so much money to New York City and start giving it to us. They're always saying they don't have enough money. They don't know how to spend it all. So they have about 38 to 50,000 cops, depending on who you ask, for about 8 million people. LA is a city of about 460 square miles. They have 10,000 cops, who are about 3.8 million people. And by the way, they have a lot of other agencies that come and go through the city, so they have thousands of more cops as a region than we do. Chicago, 248 square miles, almost 13,000 cops. It goes from 12 to 13,000. Then when you get to Houston, Texas, right? 640 square miles, 5,200 cops. That's our authorized strength. By the way, you don't always have all those cops on, right? So we are extremely lean. There was an independent study conducted by commissioned by the city council a few years back that shows we're probably about we should have at least 2,000 more cops. To me, of a city this size, the closer you got to 10,000, the better off you would be. But we've got better cops. Like Mayor Turner likes to say, what it takes 6 New York cops to do, we do with 1. Right? Because I always tell the fire chief, hey man, it takes you 2 fire engines and an EMS truck. Give me that EMS truck and 2 cops, I'll handle just about everything. And I won't need all those trucks. So yeah, we're really lean. We really are. In terms of terrorism, I can tell you that domestic violence is up. So that is up. The data shows that it's going up. And I think that I've been tweeting a little bit about words matter, and so I'm trying to talk to the president because I'm actually on his Homeland Security Advisory Council. I don't know how I got reappointed, but I did. This administration, imagine that. So I got reappointed, but the problem is when you look at mental health issues in our country, right? And you look at the political rhetoric, people that are not here already don't need to hear this. I made a prediction about the caravan. We're all worried about this caravan that's coming, everybody's talking about it. And the president made the comment about hey, if they throw a rock, we're going to consider that a deadly weapon. And I told the troops that they're okay to shoot. You guys saw that? Well, I tweeted about, oh, here come the militias. Now who's headed towards the border right now? The militias. Words matter. And I think that as leaders, no matter who you are, because people on the left do the same thing and say crazy things, we have to be a little bit more thoughtful on how we address issues, because that's what's ratcheting it up. That rhetoric's ratcheting it up, and crazy people. The Dallas police officers, right? When we paint people with broad brushes, and we're doing it to everybody, right? And so instead of judging people based on the content of their own heart and their own work, we're saying all Muslims are terrorists, or all people coming from south of the border must be thugs and rapists and murderers, or whatever it is. Words matter. Look at the Dallas officers. You know what? They were killed by a guy because all cops to the left, all cops are what? Brutal, we're Neanderthals, when the facts are that there's some cops that are bad, there's some Muslims that are bad. We need to talk about individuals and individual acts and not broad brushes. When we speak in those kind of terms, it fuels, and that's why those cops were attacked. Or the cops that were murdered sitting in their car in New York City while they were eating their lunch, some crazy guy. Mental health is a challenge, and when we do these crazy rhetoric, really, it's going on. Well, that's great, but you know what? We rely on the eyes and ears and the cooperation and the trust of everyone that works in our city and lives in our city and visits our city to be able to effectively keep who safe? Everybody. It's kind of like the unintended consequence with SB 4 I kept talking about. Have you ever lived in a neighborhood where you had that nanny that maybe didn't speak any English, and everybody, I think the nanny is illegal, undocumented, right? Well, here's the deal. The unintended consequence of this kind of stuff, if we don't communicate, build the trust, the cooperation. I'm talking about we as the police department. Your kid's at that school bus stop or you're at work, and they get kidnapped, or your grandkid, or the baby boomers in the room, and now we've created an environment where we either don't want to communicate with that nanny, and she doesn't call 911, or the gardener. That's why I say we chase crooks, not cooks, in the Houston Police Department. How do we make our community safer, right? Words matter, policy debates matter, and I'm proud of the fact that I do a lot in Spanish. My department does a lot in Spanish and other languages. We do a lot of outreach. Our department is minority majority. We have a lot of Asian officers. I mean, it's kind of like the Kumbaya department, right? I mean, it's the United Nations, right? I mean, people from Vietnam, Cambodia, India. I mean, we need to set the example for Pakistan and India, right? We can get along here, why can't they get along over there? It's the United Nations. And then we actually provide some tactical Spanish to our officers. And now I've brought a program that I established in Austin, which is Communicators on Patrol, where we actually invite community members to be facilitators, communication facilitators, and they volunteer. They actually, we vet them, and they come out, and they actually go out on patrol, and that helps build a lot of trust. You know, our because of SB4's debate last year, or the year before, our reporting of crime in the Hispanic community is way down. So we started a program called Alianza contra el Crimen, which is Alliance Against Crime, and it was a bilingual outreach program, and guess what's happened to our reporting? It's gone up, and which is a win for everybody's safety, because a person that victimizes an immigrant today, guess who they're going to victimize tomorrow? Somebody else. And the sooner, so we're doing a lot of the outreach and providing in Spanish. It's really interesting to me because a lot of departments around the country have a problem recruiting police officers, and we don't. And I think a big part of that is that Houston's a really special city. And I can tell you that because I've lived in more than, and life's about points of reference. I tell that to people all the time. You can't appreciate what's in front of you if you haven't experienced something else. This city is so diverse. There's so much culture here. There's so much opportunity here. It's such a welcoming city where nobody cares where you're from, right? Like in Austin, everybody, where are you from? What do you do? Nobody cares about that stuff here. It is such a special place that I think the city itself and the quality of life here is the selling point for us. So we have to raise our starting pay a little bit, I think, for the cadets. That's something I want to work on for the next contract in 2 years. Because I also would like, if I have a choice between hiring somebody with a little life experience that's worked for a living and somebody, a kid that just went to college and that's it, I'd rather get the person with some life experience that knows what it's like to work for a living. This is a really fun job. We just tell you, being a cop is just a lot of fun. I still go on patrol. It's my therapy. But really, you that black and white, you know, and that's how I do the temperature checks in neighborhoods. Nobody knows there's a police chief in there. If I wave and I get a wave back, all right, relationships are really good in this neighborhood. If I wave and I get the bird back, I go, oh, we got some work to do here. So I have to go out on patrol. You cannot change culture from via memo. we come out looking for the sharks, well, we catch the dolphin too. So be careful what you wish for. Because let me just tell you, in 32 years of policing, you can be the roughest neighborhood in town, and the #1 complaint, even the toughest neighborhoods, 9 times out of 10, guess what the #1 complaint is? Is traffic, speeding, people blowing stops. And then we'll go and we'll do our thing. But wait a minute, I'm the one that called you guys. Well, congratulations, sign hard, 4 copies. All right? That's hard. And God forbid if you're the guy that says, don't you know I'm the one that pays your wages? Have you ever said that to a cop? No. You know what you'll get from me? You cheap son of a gun, I've been looking for you. Sure, first of all, I wish that anybody I wish the term sanctuary city could take it out of your vocabulary. It's just a term that the left uses and the right uses to evoke a reaction, okay, for political theater. There is no sanctuary city in the city. They call me a sanctuary city. There's no sanctuary for crooks in this city. I don't care if you're documented or undocumented. We chase after people that are a threat. Having said that, we fought law enforcement against the SB4 because it's perception matters. Perception matters. And if the immigrant community believes that local law enforcement are going to be more interested in their status than in what they might know about a crime, that's going to have a negative impact. So believe me, that SB4 did nothing. I'm really upset about the money that we're wasting at the border, on the border. I'm really upset. I looked at 10 years of data, okay? Because the crime is rampant on the border. Have you heard that? Have you heard that from any politicians? I've got 10 years worth of data. We have spent hundreds of millions of dollars of Texas taxpayer dollars on the border. You know what the DPS is doing predominantly? Running over each other, bumping into each other. They're not doing much of anything, unless you're drunk driving. There's a lot of drunk driving. In the meantime, we've got hundreds of murders in our city here. We have 20,000 gang members in our city. We have all these public safety needs, and because we want to gain political points, we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars in the last 8 years on a border surge that was nothing but political theater. I'm not into that. And I'm going to call them as I see them. And it's not about politics. I'm telling you right now, I don't believe in straight party tickets. I already voted this cycle, and it was not a straight party. I believe in paying attention to what people actually stand for, what they actually do, not the rhetoric they put out or they spew to try to win a primary election in a world of safe districts. We are wasting a lot of precious tax dollars on the border when those resources need to be right here. They send the 20th helicopter from DPS to the border instead of having those helicopters here managing pursuits that we have on a regular basis, looking for, lost children, doing the things that we need to be doing. So if you want that data, I have it. Okay. I've already given it to some people at the state, because it's time for us to start worrying about public safety in Texas, be intelligence-led, data-driven, and not poll-driven, which is all these politicians care about on both ends, is what do I need to do to get elected instead of doing their damn jobs, and it's not wasting a lot of money on the border, which is what we're doing in Texas.